The password for Sylva. Bullet.
If I just share it, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh. Cool.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting of the Sylva Town Board of Commissioners to order. And the first thing on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to do that?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there any discussion? Then all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Oh, and I'm sorry, we will let Amanda take our roll since we have a remote.
Greg,
Yes.
Natalie. Yes. Ben,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mary. Yes.
Thank you. Next is approval of the consent agenda, and you have that in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any discussion? Then I will ask for a vote. Amanda, if you will.
Greg,
Yes.
Natalie.
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mary. Yes.
Thank you. Now comes the time for public comment. I do not see anyone here for public comment, so we will move on from that. For the mayor's report, I just only want to remember Brenda Oliver, who was our mayor for many years, first woman commissioner and first woman mayor. And she was a mentor to me, and she will be greatly missed in this town. So just want to give her recognition that she deserves. That's all I have. Mary?
I just have two things tonight. One is a business owner came to me about parking fines. They're curious how we differentiate when they're in town doing their business versus their playtime. How we figure that out. Someone recently got a fine when they were there on their day off. So I just am hopeful to get further clarification on that for them. Second is the parking lots that we rent need to be repainted to whomever needs to hear that. Thanks.
Thank you. David?
I forwarded an email that we got about someone who had tripped on a sidewalk that was poorly maintained, but it wasn't a town sidewalk, it was private. It was downtown. Is there a way, since I wasn't exactly sure where that sidewalk was, but is there a way to make the owner of that sidewalk repair that? Because it's along a public right of way, it's a public use, even though it's not our sidewalk.
Jake, do you want to speak to that?
We can suggest it, but we can't force that property owner to do anything beyond what he's already doing.
So we require a business to build a sidewalk, like when there's a change of use or something, but we have no authority to make them maintain it.
So that sidewalk runs along the side of the building and not in front or behind.
Sidewalk, I guess.
It's in an odd location.
It's not like a public. It's not a public sidewalk.
No,
Right.
it's absolutely private.
Oh,
It's
okay.
connected to that building.
Okay, I wasn't sure where it was exactly. Okay, so nothing we can do about that. I was hoping Chief Hatton would be here. He had a meeting with Dunkin' Donuts about them making some steps to improve the safety of their driveway. Do you know the results of that?
I don't.
Okay, maybe he can give a report on that at our next meeting, because I feel like every time they meet, they come up with steps for us to take and for the police department to take to make that safer. And I think it's time Duncan does something to make that safer and actually address it. That's all I have.
Thank you, David. Ben.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I just want to, Brenda Oliver, too. I talked to her when I was gonna run. And she had some great stories of how things kind of used to go here and stuff. So those stories are gone with her now, but yeah, she really was kind of, kind of a pioneer in the town, at town government. I just wanted to touch base. Reason I'm wearing a mask tonight, just because I just got up 5 shifts in a row, and there's lots of COVID out there. I want to make sure in case I pick something up, I don't get anybody else sick. But the BA.5 is super contagious. It's not super deadly. We're not seeing tons of people in the hospital that are, getting admitted, but lots of people are getting it again. It's not fun to get, feel crappy. You don't want to spend your summer vacation isolated or whatever, miss your trip. So just want to encourage people to, when they're out and about, be safe, kind of go back a little bit to early days, the pre-vaccine days of just being extra careful, wearing masks in large crowds and that kind of thing, just to, minimize inconvenience for folks. Long COVID is always, that's right. Other thing, right now, there's a really important school board election going on. So I want to encourage people to get out just because, and I want to encourage people always to get out and vote, because that is your superpower in a democracy, to get out there and be heard. So the vote is on the 26th, but there's early voting going on now. I just wanted to mention with what Dave said at Dunkin' Donuts. Jake, remember we talked about maybe closing the turn lane. Did DOT ever, can I get back to you on
I
that?
approached the DOT about doing that. They were going to take that to Raleigh to look for approval.
Okay.
I have not heard back yet.
Okay. And then are you doing traffic counts, or are they doing
The traffic counts are concluded. Rose is currently collating that data.
I meant like around town. I saw there's a bunch of counters.
Yeah, we're not doing that. That's part of the DOT.
That's DOT. Okay, gotcha. Okay, and then that's it. And just a historical note, today is 14th of July, which is Bastille Day, which is the day that in France that started their revolution when they stormed the king's prison. And the reason things were in such disarray was that there was an economic crisis going on after France funded the American Revolution. So we'll note there. That's all I got.
Thank you for that bit of history. Natalie,
I have nothing to report at this time.
thank you. That concludes our commissioner.
Greg over there.
Oh, Greg, I'm sorry. Greg, please.
Thank you so much for letting me Zoom into the meeting. Today's my last day of isolation. So hopefully I'll see you guys out for social district tomorrow. So I have met with the kids over at the skate park, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get anybody to take a bite of that boat. So I think we're going to have to get rid of it, but everybody's super excited, and I hope to have the memorandum of understanding for our next meeting. And that's pretty much all I have for today.
Thank you, Greg. Now, we will go on to the manager's report.
Yes, I just have a few things. First, we want to congratulate Mayor Sossman, who's been appointed to the North Carolina Mayor's Board of Directors. Thank you. You'll do a great job representing Sylva. Employment updates. So we have 2 vacancies that we're advertising for in Public Works. I hope to have one filled very soon. And then as far as the fire department, Mike Beck started as fire chief on the 1st, and Mallory Caraway started as captain on the 1st. Keith Buchanan was hired as assistant chief on July the 6th. So we're accepting applications for 2 more captains and 3 firefighters and are beginning interviews. The City County Managers Conference was very informative. There were some really good sessions on workforce retention, workforce development, and affordable housing. And Jake and I learned some interesting procurement for emergency management in our class, but it was helpful, but not the emergency management class we thought we were getting. So you all should have received your invitation for the Southwestern Commission's Board of Directors meeting. So let me know if you didn't, and I'll send send it to you. And just a reminder that our next meeting on the 28th is a work session to determine how the board wants to use the community funds that were freed up by the ARPA funds. And this will take place instead of our regular morning meeting. Any questions?
Yeah, so for that meeting, do we need to, because I'll be out of town for the Zoom in. Since we're not voting, do we need to approve me to be on there, or can I just Zoom in?
You can just zoom in.
Okay.
Thank you, Paige. And thank you, Fire Department, for being here tonight. And we'll look forward to seeing the rest of your crew when those get hired. Next, we will move on to new business. First item on our agenda is the outdoor economy conference and TDA presentation. Nick Reba.
So thanks for having me. It's been a while since the Outdoor Economy Conference, but both Ben and I attended that. I was only there for one day because ARC was in the region filming downtown Sylva, so I was coordinating with them. But the key takeaways from that were a focus on leave no trace and sustainability for all of our outdoor spaces. And that aligns perfectly with what we're doing as a TDA. For the last 2 years, we've had a sustainability and stewardship committee. And if anyone would like to serve on that, we're always looking for volunteers, but we're finding ways to lessen the impact of visitation on our communities. And that goes hand in hand with our marketing programs and platforms. Our desire isn't to bring more and more here. It's to bring fewer, more eco-minded people that contribute more to the economy. So it was great to see that reflect what we're already doing in our planning. And today I've just got some general updates. I know it's been a while since I was before you, just updating you on tourism in Jackson County. So talking about tourism building community, these are some statistics. I know they were in the newspaper a while back, but visitors to Jackson County contribute significantly to our economy. We come in right behind Buncombe County in visitor spending out of the 17 county region. Buncombe County visitors spend 1.4 billion, and we're in second place. Visitors here annually spend 292 million. So that's really impressive. And to thank for that, we have our retail shops, our small businesses, our attractions. All of them play a critical part in making this such a desirable destination. I tell colleagues that it's really difficult threading the needle when you talk about bringing enough visitation to a region or a county, but not too much. You want to bring enough to support small businesses, but you don't want to bring over tourism and the problems that includes with traffic, with litter and countless other issues. So it's a delicate balancing act, but we're faring well so far in that regard.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
Is spending on the reservation reflected in this, like the portion of the reservation that's in Jackson or in Swain?
Yes, so in 2012, the state did a special one-time adjustment that accounted for the job split between the Qualla boundary inside Jackson and Swain County itself.
So is Swain picking up the spending at the casino?
They're picking up a prorated portion, so is Jackson.
Okay.
Would Swain be number 3?
I don't have those stats in front of me, but I can tell you we've increased tourism spending at the fastest pace out of all neighboring counties. We've increased it $40 million in, I believe, 4 or 5 years, which outpaces every other county surrounding us.
And do you have the break? I think maybe what you're getting, are we skewed because of Cherokee? Is that kind of what you're asking? Or do there's more than Cherokee?
If you didn't
in Jackson
include Cherokee, would Jackson still be?
We'd still be up there,
Number two.
I think, right?
I don't have that data, but we'd still be a significant driver in the region. I think we're right behind us is Haywood County, but I can give you those figures. When we talk about tourism, a lot of people think festivals, events, and marketing, but more importantly, it puts people to work. Over 2,000 jobs in our community are supported directly by tourism, everything from gas stations to retail. If you were to call tourism an employer, it would be the largest employer in the county, followed by Western, Jackson County government, and the school system. So over 2,100 jobs, and it generates 84.5 million in worker paychecks, which is huge. It helps people pay their mortgages, put food on the table. A lot of people see tourism as a traffic problem, but $84.5 million goes back to our citizens as a result. Like I said, they spent 292 million at local businesses. This is a figure that I use instead of that 292 million. If you divide that by 365 days a year, visitors deposit $801,000 a day in local cash registers. And that's a number that resonates with people because there's no other industry that supports our small businesses like that. So looking at our ad campaigns, I'm excited to preview what we're launching this year. It's a do both campaign. So these will be rolling out in August. It encourages people to take trips where they can do more than one thing. So rather than just taking a trip to go hiking, you can explore the Ale Trail, you can go shopping, you can do dining. So this is just an example of some early creative that'll appear on websites and Google throughout the internet as people are searching for mountain destinations. This is another ad concept that we're working on refining, but it's be your own explorer. This year, as many of you know, we're preparing for next year, which is Year of the Trail in North Carolina. So we've got some massive plans to unveil to celebrate trails in North Carolina. We're in talks with Leave No Trace to bring them out here for cleaning up the mountains, greening up the mountains, and then following a week of educational series with our school system for Leave No Trace and to help with litter and things like that. But this takes advantage of people wanting to chart their own course on a vacation. So everything from hiking, fishing, forest therapy at Pinnacle Park, and more.
I was gonna say with the Leave No Trace, so it was a great presentation. They talked about, at the trailheads, the Leave No Trace there, but also bringing that new Leave No Trace concept, having it in the restaurants here. So you're bringing out so folks that are in town away from the trailhead are still thinking about, the impacts that they have out there. And that would be something that we could promote maybe through Main Street or something.
That's right. And one of the things we did with some CARES Act funding about 2 years ago was we purchased around 15 Leave No Trace signs for Jackson County. One of them, Jake and his crews put up at Pinnacle Park for us. The others are at river put-ins. So the Greenway has one reminding to keep our mountains clean and green. So any point that we can reinforce that messaging, and oftentimes visitors and tourists get pegged for the litter problem. But in discussions with all my colleagues and Leave No Trace, it's not a visitor problem. It's not a resident problem. It's a people problem because people across the board litter. So no one group deserves that blame. It's an across the board. It's an education issue that we're trying to address. This is a question I often receive, and it's one that I've been asked throughout my career. How many people visit Jackson County every year? And what we've done is there's 3 different formulas that we've used to arrive at this figure. And they're all relatively close in projected estimates. So we took an average of 3 different formulas from credit card spending data that we've got, from cell phone device data, and also from our room tax and average room rate and average per person travel party. And we've averaged them into this one number. And every year on average in Jackson County, we receive about 1,093,283 visitors in the county. And I did want to share this with you. This is something that that's internal to the TDA. We purchase data directly from Visa, the credit card company, so we can tell exactly how much a visitor from Charlotte takes out at the ATM, which markets spend more in Jackson County on Visa credit cards. So what I'm showing you here, some of it's redacted because we're not allowed to show actual totals in millions of dollars, how much people spend. But what you're seeing here is 2022 is this blue line, and this is January, February, March, April, May. This is 2021, and this is 2020. So as you'll see, this reporting area is just Sylva. And we're looking at non-resident spending, so people whose credit cards are not local. And Visa knows that if you spend most of your time in Tennessee, but your billing address is somewhere else, they consider you local to Tennessee. They've got some really smart technology. So non-residents are continuing to spend in Sylva in record numbers. And it's nice to see this data line sustained, and we're slightly above last year's spend in Sylva. So that's really encouraging news. We cannot continue to grow. It will start to level out, especially with inflation, with gas prices. But Sylva and the rest of Jackson County have a great advantage. We're a drive market. That's one of the slogans we're using in marketing this year, is that we're a one-tank trip for a lot of people in the Southeast. And I think that appeals to people. And further diving down into the Visa data, people are spending 6.9% more this year than last year on restaurants and dining. And this is just in Sylva and just 5 visitors. Hotels are down slightly, but 9% increase in retail sales over last year and 12% in other sales. So it's really great to see people continuing to spend in Sylva. Now, I wanted to share this with you. This is really terrific. A company that we work with called Zardico, they take in lots of data from cell phone data, from Facebook, from our website, from all across the board, and it empowers us to make smarter marketing decisions. So we receive, on average, about 5 of these visualizations a year. So I wanted to better understand what greening up the mountains, what that impacts, how it impacts Jackson County, how people travel to greening up, what they do once they're here, how many people are residents, how many people are visitors, how many people are from in-state versus out-of-state. So I asked our partners to do an analysis, and we want to understand visitor movement and visitor spend lift. And so overall resident and visitors to Sylva nearly tripled the average number of daily visitors in April. So that one day is triple what our average is on any other day in April. The overnight visitors are from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and we see a countywide lift in visitation throughout the entire county on that day, as well as lodging. And we also see a lot of cross visitation. They don't just come to the festival, they go to Cullowhee, they go to our outdoor recreation spots after the festival. So even though it's a local event, visitor attendance was equal with typical visitation. So this is the typical visitor to Jackson County that weekend. 41% are visitors, 59% are residents. On greening up the mountain, 40% are visitors and about 60% are residents. So it's not really that different makeup countywide as between visitors and residents that day. But when you break it down, the visitors attending greening up the mountains were heavily overnight travelers. So people are coming from out of the area, staying overnight as a result of the festival. Roughly 77%, this big blue circle, stayed overnight and went to the festival. 10.6% took a short trip, so a couple hours, 9.4% took a day trip, and 2% took a long day trip. 144% higher visitation to points of interest in Sylva on the festival day than any other day in April. So people not just visited the festival, they visited other points of interest in Sylva that day. Point of interest can be a brewery, it can be any business in downtown Sylva. 49% higher visitation to Jackson County on the day of the festival versus the average visitation throughout the month of April. So 423 is right here. So it's the highest visitation day in April in Sylva. That's to be expected. So typically, countywide on the day of the festival, Charlotte, Greenville, and Atlanta are the top visitor markets that people come from. But just in Sylva, we see Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville is the top visitor market, followed by Charlotte, Atlanta, and Greensboro. So the markets do shift just for Sylva versus countywide statistics. I realize this is a lot of data to take in, so I'm going to share this deck with you guys afterward. And also make sure Kendra gets a copy. We did peak at 82% hotel occupancy the day of the festival, which is the highest throughout the month of April, and 43% on short-term rentals, so Airbnb and Vrbo. So it does drive visitation. Our average daily rate was $253 for a short-term rental and $157 for a hotel. So it's really affordable to come here, experience the festival, and enjoy Sylva. And we're able to actually map out, once people leave the festival, where are they going afterwards? So these are all the data points. Some go to the casino, some visit nearby places. We're actually able to see a strong correlation. People taking a trip, out-of-state visitors will then go to Cashers, that strong line right there. And then places that people go following the festival. So the top places on the right, visited by Greening Up the Mountains attendees, that means we know they were downtown, and then where did they go after? Blue Ridge Parkway, Walmart, Sylva's Recreation Park, I believe that's Mark Watson, then WCU, Walmart, Jackson Plaza. They went to the Biltmore Estate. I don't know how you have time for both in one day, but people did. What we did see is a 41% spike in outdoor recreation places following the festival. So they not only went to the festival, they then did something outdoors after the festival. A 21% increase in retail spending. So it's good to see people coming for the festival, but staying for the outdoors and spending money in our retail establishments. There's some other information. This is the really neat thing I'll share with you, and I'll have to grab the mouse with this part. Okay, so apologize you can't see me on camera, Greg, but what I'm showing you is this is downtown Sylva at around 4 a.m. And for those of you that have volunteered at the festival, you get out there pretty early and you volunteer and help vendors unload. These dots right here, these blue dots are residents. Orange dots will be out-of-state visitors, and the strong blue color are in-state visitors. As we go throughout the day, these are cell phones of individual people. As we go throughout the day, this is around 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So we're seeing a lot of activity converge on downtown Sylva. As we approach the festival start time, you'll start to see downtown Sylva light up. And the great thing is it's not just residents. Those orange dots represent out-of-state visitors. The strong blue dots represent in-state visitors. And you see throughout the festival day, a huge concentration. We're actually able to take a farther back view and see how people come into the festival, which highways they egress on. So we're able to take a really great view. You can actually zoom in as well and see people concentrations. And the nice thing is we're able to see far past the stated festival time. This is at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. People are still downtown, so they're still shopping, dining. This is 8 o'clock at night, the day of the festival. So it's great to see those orange dots and those bright blue dots, because those are not residents. Those are people who came from out of state to experience the festival, and they're spending money downtown shopping at retail, restaurants, and other merchants. So what we wanted to do with this is to better understand, is it a local event? Is it somebody coming in from out of state, an overnight visitor? Because that really helps us with our marketing dollars, know how to allocate them and market.
Impressive.
Thank you. May I answer any questions?
I just wanted to say too, just along with the conference, one of the things they talked about too is creating this place for people to want to live, not just to visit, but it's a great place to visit, but a great place to live. And They talked about, that can kind of grow your community and people live here, they live and they play and they go outside and it draws in outdoor businesses. There was a big, at the conference, there was a lot of focus on outdoor oriented businesses, not just catering to tourists, but actually manufacturing outdoor equipment, and people want to live around where they use that kind of stuff. So it's great. And, the tourism part brings people out and then they really like it and then they want to live here. And so it also creates at the same time. It's an excellent conference. I definitely think we should keep sending someone, every year because it's a great place, like Paige, like you talked about, it's not just what's going on, but it's all that interacting, the kind of talking to folks that are there because everyone's just, you've got a lot of representation from different walks of tourism and outdoor living and outdoor businesses. So.
Thank you all.
Got a question for you real quick.
Yes, sir.
The cell phone data. So the credit card data, obviously, is something you all pay for, it's private. What about the cell phone data?
So that is built into a platform we purchased that represents 5% of all active cell phones. That's only people who opt in via advertising or apps they download. But it's the largest data pipeline in the world of cell phone data. And it's scrubbed, it's clean, so it's accurate data. But that view I showed you, it's only 5% of all cell phones. So that's some of the data that we use to determine total visitor count and things like that. It also helps with our marketing because we can better understand who's coming to specific points of interest and where they're from. That way we can target our advertising better and really use those dollars the best. Lastly, I'd remind the board, I know I've talked with, I believe, two of you on the board, but the TDA does have a $750,000 tourism capital project fund. So any projects that the board might have that would benefit the community, its residents and visitors as well. Applications for the first cycle are due August 1st, but then we'll have another cycle at the beginning of probably January, February. So again, this fiscal year, but I know I've talked to David about Pinnacle Park and there's a lot of uses for that fund and we want to see it reinvested in the community.
Is it a one-time thing you have?
It depends on future allocations of tax funds. We can't predict year to year how much we'll have, but our hope is to reinvest annually in that. But this year we do have $750,000.
Okay, and then you can matching.
There's a 1-to-1 match required.
Yeah, okay.
So for restrictions on the use of the funds, does it have to go towards promoting more tourism or could it be used to address some of the issues that the community experiences because of tourism?
So it is not intended at all to promote more tourism. It's intended to do brick and mortar type projects with a useful lifespan of 10 or more years or an investment of $25,000 a year. There are specific criteria on our website that I can direct you to, but it lists all the criteria for uses and uses that it cannot be used for.
Okay. So real quick, thinking forward to our conversation next week about ARP funds. And we're in discussions with the county for purchasing a piece of property for a housing development. Would that be an acceptable use?
Without knowing the details of the housing development, I know workforce housing is critical, but I think other communities have used this for placemaking. So if the town needs wayfinding signage, I realize Sylva has that. Performing arts theaters that are open to the public, trail system maintenance, things like that.
The public bathroom downtown.
That could have been a use, yes.
Okay.
But thank you all.
Thank you, Nick.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I know that last year, 14 million people came to see the Great Smokies Park. Do you have any cross marketing with the National Park Service, or is there any way that you guys capitalize on what's happening in the park?
So that's a long answer, but we we do market the park on our website and all of our visitor collateral, but we market our side of the park is the less crowded side of the Smokies. We tell people that they'll spend more time exploring than stuck in traffic on the Tennessee side. We don't specifically market to the park's visitors because we find that people's travel intent already includes plans to the Great Smokies Park. It is one of the top attractions in 2018 when we did a visitor profile study. The top attraction for a visitor to Jackson County, the number one was Biltmore, which is not even in Jackson County, but people come here, use it as their home base, then go to Biltmore. Also the Great Smoky and Blue Ridge Parkway, where I believe in the top 5. So we don't do any direct advertising with the Smokies. We are I believe it's a Mount Cameron level patron of the Great Smoky Mountain Association. So we do donate to their cause, which helps everything from trail clearing to you name it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Nick? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Next item of new business on our agenda is the Allen Street update.
Thank y'all. Turn my cell phone off. I want to keep everybody up to date on the Allen Street and what's going on up there. The inclinometer that we've installed above the prefab wall at Bryson Park has been in for about a month and a half. The first approximately 20 days of that were dry, and that concluded with a 5-inch rain event. So, and we did get a small amount of movement, not enough of movement to really sound any alarms, but enough movement to leave it in there and keep on monitoring for the next several months. After these daily rain events that we've been having, the water table's going deeper again, so we'll be able to hopefully get some good data off of that. As the water table rises, that's when it's going to move. So I'm encouraged if every evening when we get a rain shower, just hope that we keep getting those for a little while. I think likely that'll be in there through the end of August. So we can keep on monitoring that and be able to make a decision about whether that wall needs a deep-seated reinforcing. If it is the case that repair is needed, that's when add an additional $595,000 to the cost of that slope repair. Y'all have been presented that figure before. That's line item A5 on the master list of cost estimations that y'all seen already. Update on Bryson Park page, and I had CDC do a cost estimation on a sidewalk along Chipper Curve Road as part of the Bryson Park improvements. What will be needed to make that happen is an approximately 5-foot retaining wall due to the slope where it's very steep between Bryson Park and Chipper Curve Road. So you need 7.5 feet roughly worth of sidewalk and curb and gutter, and then the wall. It's certainly not impossible, but the wall does complicate things a little bit. That will add approximately $397,000 to the Bryson Park improvements if you guys decide to do that. I think it's my opinion that if the money is left over at the conclusion of the slope repairs, that would be a good addition to that. It'll give us pedestrian space along the entire Bryson Park property and also give good connections on either side of the park for future sidewalk projects. So that's the update. I'm happy to take questions.
So we could put the sidewalk on the other side and avoid the retaining wall.
It's possible, but the right-of-way acquisitions would be probably, we would have to buy that property from the paper plant.
Wouldn't fit in the existing.
And it also wouldn't really add any value to pedestrian access to the park like it would on the other side of the road.
I mean, if we continued that sidewalk to the fire department or to Skyline, wouldn't it be on that other side? Because aren't we gonna run up against that same problem, needing a retaining wall throughout the rest of that length?
Possibly, but you need crosswalks unsignalized crosswalks to get across Chipper Curve Road over to the park.
Yeah, there's one there already.
The real dangerous one.
Yeah, it is.
And how much of a retaining, how far a retaining wall do you need? It's just this, that kind of where the slope is right now, where actually where that, those Jersey barriers are, right? Is that where you really need, because once you get past it.
No, this is only at what the property that we own, adjacent to Chipper Curve Road. So from the entrance road to Bryson Park to the opposing property line, headed east.
Like where the fence for the playground runs. that
Mhm.
road,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That
So like not getting
Mhm.
touched by the
Got it.
construction. I mean, that's something to think about though, putting it to the other side. Where does our pedestrian plan have it? Which side? Bryson Park side, I think.
Probably, I'll have to double check
Yeah,
that.
so it probably makes more sense. I just feel like if we, for long term, we want a sidewalk all the way down Chipper Curve, it just feels like it should be on the other side. That's where the footpath is, since it's so heavily trafficked already.
Is there a sidewalk at the fire department along that road where their parking lot is?
No, ma'am. Once you leave the fire department property, there's no sidewalk on either side of the road. Anywhere.
But at right there at the beginning, where the fire department property is, where that side parking lot is on Chipper Curve.
You talking about behind the highway patrol office? No, there's no sidewalk right there.
So what's the overall timeline now for starting repairs?
Looking at early to mid-September.
That hasn't changed. And what are we waiting on?
Right now, we're in the design phases. The engineers are just making plans, the forester engineers and CDC engineers.
Did we ever get that $200,000 that Hawthorne's showing up with? Since we're talking about it.
Gotten notification that it would be coming as a grant through the HUD office.
Okay. Any idea when that's?
The Skyland Drive sidewalk project that's already been funded, is that starting at McDonald's intersection and going to, what's this?
It's starting at roughly the McDonald's intersection and going to roughly the intersection with Chipper Curve. They're gonna reconfigure that real funny little sharp curve right there to get over onto Chipper Curve, which was one of the early delays in that project. It wasn't originally intended to go that far, but they decided while they were there to go ahead and reconfigure that intersection. Trucks get hung up there, flat, toll trucks.
Oh, it only goes to right there? I thought it went.
They've already done, the railroad has already done their reconfigured crossing right there. I don't know if any of y'all noticed that or not. So DOT didn't get any bids the first time, so they've done that process over. I don't think it's closed yet, is it, Paige?
No, fall.
And it's on the side that McDonald's is on. The sidewalk portion.
I'll have to double check the plans, but I think so. And while I have your ear, there's no further questions about that. The rooftop HVAC unit, one of the four at the police department, has stopped. It is depreciated to the point that it doesn't make any sense to repair it. I'm currently in the process of getting quotes, and we're going to review that and go with the lowest quote for replacement. I've got one quote, met with another installer today. I've got another meeting with another installer on Monday. I will ask y'all to appropriate 20,000 from contingency for that project. It's currently not working.
Unbalanced.
Fund balance, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Just for the rooftop unit,
Just for one of the four. Yeah,
20,000.
Yeah, they're expensive.
super expensive.
It's an air handler.
Can I put you into my HVAC
Well, the
guy?
air handlers it's a dual fuel unit. So it's like a heat pump style air conditioner, and then they've got a natural gas line for the heat.
Did you have more comments, Craig?
I mean, I have an HVAC guy that could probably find something cheaper than that.
Is he commercially licensed?
Yeah.
I'll I'll get with you after the meeting and we'll be happy to get a price from him. But
Great.
those units, it is my estimation that any of the three prices that we get will exceed $20,000. Or they'll be right around there somewhere.
Well, it might be worth an ask. It might be a different unit than what I have on my roof, but
It
he's
certainly
considerably
is.
cheaper, yeah.
So should we make a motion for this then? Can I make a motion? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we use $20,000 plus or minus from fund balance for the new HVAC system at Sylva.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there any further discussion? Then all those in favor, Amanda?
Greg,
Yeah,
Natalie? Yes. Ben,
Yes.
David?
Yeah.
Mary?
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Now, we will move on to item 3, personnel policy update.
Yes, so the MAPS group reviewed the personnel policy as part of our salary study. And so we did this back in 2017, and there have been very few changes they've suggested since then. And I included a memo in the agenda packet of the main changes, but just to hit the highlights. For holidays, the personnel policy recommendation adds President's Day and Juneteenth to the list of observed holidays. And it also recommended having or assigning the human resource officer job to those duties to Amanda's position. Her position previously included personnel technician and then personnel analyst, but the HR duties reflect more of what the actual job duties she's been doing. Then the USERA update for military leave, it just further spells out those requirements. And then as far as our gifts policy, suppliers and contractors have been added to the list of prohibited donors. But pretty much everything is as it was in our 2017 version.
You need action from the board or just?
Yes.
Do you want to skip for right now, adding a social media policy and just add that as a separate policy later?
So it's the same language as we had in the 2017 version. It gives the manager the authority to add one.
Okay. So maybe we'll just look at some other samples and add one. I think it'd be good to have.
Hear a motion to accept this policy.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the amended personnel policy.
All right, any further discussion? All right.
Well, one more
Okay.
question. So the name clearing, Sarah, the name clearing policy, is that a legal requirement? Does that open us up for litigation if we don't have that? So there's a name clearing policy in there where if you get fired, you get to have a hearing and added to your termination documents, your rebuttal to your firing. Because apparently termination letters are public record in North Carolina. And I personally do not like those policies.
It's a requirement that if someone wanted the name clearing hearing, that we would have to give it to them. What's changed is there was a lawsuit in 2019 for a town where someone requested a name clearing hearing after they'd been let go and they were denied. So the MAPS group's recommendation was, even though you've always had to do this name clearing hearing, put in here that a time limit of when it needs to be requested. So it says 15 days.
Okay. So we have to allow it anyway.
We have to allow it.
So we might as well regulate it to some extent. Okay.
All right, did you make a motion? Right. Amanda?
Craig,
Yes.
Natalie? Yes. Ben,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Thank you. That is approved. Next item on our new business is to reschedule the July 21st planning board meeting to July 28th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved. So moved, yes.
Okay. Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Any discussion? Then all of those in favor, let Amanda take our vote.
Craig,
Yes.
Natalie? Yes. Ben, excuse me,
Yes.
David?
Yeah.
Mary.
Yes.
Thank you, that motion is approved. Next on our agenda is ABC board appointment.
Yes, so Johnny Phillips was appointed March 24th to fill the remainder of Marion Jones' term, which expired June 30th. Mr. Phillips is interested in being reappointed. This would be a 3-year term and the first of the 3 full terms that he would be eligible for.
A motion. We have a motion to appoint Johnny Phillips to the 3-year term on the ABC board. Any discussion? Then Amanda will take our roll.
Craig,
Yes.
Natalie? Yes. Ben,
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. That concludes our regular business. We now have a closed session on our agenda.
Pursuant to General Statute 143-31811K3, make a motion that we consult with our attorney in closed session.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Craig,
Yes.
Natalie?
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mary.
Thank you, everyone that was here.